following is an exclusive presentation of the Ultimate Hoops Podcast Network.
Do you remember your first game in the WNBA?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Let's hear it.
Yeah. Okay. It was... okay, so first of all, we were scheduled to play the Detroit Shock. It was my first game in the WNBA. And at this time, it was 2008. In 2006, they had won the championship with Bill Lambier's team. And in 2007, they made it to the finals. And they ended up losing to Phoenix. So they were the returning, Eastern Conference champions. And I just remember there was so much build up to this first game because our class... whether people can understand this or not, our class with Candice, with Sylvia, and with myself, and with a host of others, of players who are still dominating. I can't even go down the list of legendary players that are playing from my class, 2008. But we brought this new wave. Everyone could feel that we were the new generation, and we were going to be. But it was almost like kind of threatening, I think, to a lot of the players that were playing, and because. It was, at this point, the WNBA was like 10 years old. We were the first generation, I think, of true players that were really hit by the impact of the WNBA starting in 97. Like, we were the kids who we were like, okay, we're going to be in the WNBA. And then we got here. So we had a different type of energy, I think, than... And it's all of us, I'm not knocking 2007 class or 2009 class or anything like that, but there was something about this 08 class that I think just brought this new energy, and in a way where there was a lot of conflict and battle. And even if you look back, you can see that was the year where there was the brawl between the Sparks and the Detroit Shock. You can go on YouTube and look that up. That kind of just expresses the kind of energy I'm talking about. A lot of it was geared towards Candice. A lot of it was geared towards me too. And I, it was kind of confusing. So with all that said, the first game we played was against Detroit, and we were just preparing. It was like we were preparing weeks for this one game. And Don Zierden, who was our coach at the time, he one day before, and it was just such a different atmosphere. Like I didn't like it very much. I didn't like how everybody would just seem like, I don't know, everyone had a kind of an attitude or a chip on their shoulder when it came towards me. Like it was like they had seen me, they had been watching me maybe, or maybe not watching, maybe just hearing, and whatever it was, there was something about me that was annoying to people, to the players. There was annoying to the coaches. There was just something about me specifically that I didn't understand, that people had a problem with, to the point where even Coach Don Zierden came up to me after practice, and we were right out here when this was our practice facility, and he said, I got to tell you something. He pulled me aside, and he was like, they've been taught, I just want you to know, the girls on the Detroit, I heard they were talking about you. They were saying, something about how, they're not going to let you're a punk or something like that. Or he was just saying stuff to just, like, I guess, pump me up. And I was just crushed. Like, he was saying how they were just talking about me or making fun of me or whatever. And I just was so confused. I'm like, wait, what is going on? I don't get this. I don't get this. I don't know how to play like this. I don't know how to fight like this, because it just seemed just so silly to me. Like, why can't we just play basketball? And it's not. And then, and Simone Augustus tried to, like, say, he always says that, don't listen to him. But there was just something different about the energy that I was receiving from people, that it kind of just dawned on me that this is war. Like, I'm going to have to be ready. Like, people are seeing me as this challenge. Like, it's not even, it's competition to a whole different level. Like, I just felt like people are really, and it wasn't just from a skill standpoint. It felt very personal. It felt like whatever it was, there was something about me, and I couldn't get it. Now I think I understand. I think, they just didn't really understand who I was. I think me coming from Stanford, people just couldn't quite get it or get me. So I think a lot of it was, in retrospect, I can look back and kind of understand it a little bit better. But I just want to just build that up. So then, the first game, was against Detroit, and they had Dana Nolan. Oh, and by the way, Don Zierden was saying that the stuff that was being talked about was coming from their star player, Dana Nolan. So that kind of made me more anxious as well, because I'm just like, why does Dana Nolan even care? Like, I didn't really believe it, but then I also kind of did, and I did feel like there was, I was being talked about maybe, or being discussed, and that made me uncomfortable, because even though I know I've always been talked about, that's just the nature of a trash-talking sport like basketball, it just still was different. There was more at stake. So I just had to really focus for the next week or so while we were preparing, because he told me this before, leading up to the game. So I just remember just thinking like, okay, I have to hold on to all these things that got me here. I had to really dig deep and figure out, what I was going to do. Like, besides the game plan, everybody else on my team had a different mindset. They were kind of carefree. I knew specifically that I had to have a game plan so that I was on point. I had to make it where I was twice as prepared, I felt like, as everyone else was, because there was just this extra target. So I knew I wasn't going to be a starter. He right away in training camp expressed that Anna was going to start, even though, I felt like I had, I was playing well enough to earn that, but I just kind of shrugged it off and had to just, be like, okay. So that was actually kind of a relief for me, I guess, because it just made it like something less to worry about people having a grudge with me about. So then the game started. I remember this game because it was the first and only game that Tara Vanderveer ever attended. It was my only WNBA game. After that, she wouldn't attend any other game, and I completely understood why. And I'm just so happy that she came to my first game, because she really set the tone for me. When I saw her there, she was singing at half court, and that just gave me everything that I needed, because it just brought back to my remembrance of how I got to this point. And, I understood the player that I was. And so, but I knew there was like these two worlds. There was like this world of the actual game, and then there was this outside world that was watching with this kind of attitude of they don't really care, but they care. So it's like, it was really weird, because it's like, what do? You're stuck in these two worlds. You're stuck in this big, big world, and everyone's still following my career at this point because of the momentum from the Final Four. I know everyone's watching, but everyone's kind of watching. I'm sure a lot of girls were like glued watching, and then there was like a whole huge population of people that were watching, but like I said, not really caring. So with all that in mind, people want to see numbers. They want to see things happen. They want to see your worth. And for me, it was hard because I was battling a lot of interior things too, like within the structure of my team as well. So now you're playing this game and you don't really know what to do. So now you're playing against this team that just can't stand you. So I remember the game, I got subbed in. I had these chills on my arms when I finally got subbed in. You could tell like everybody in the arena at Target Center was like, I don't know. I think I was just like a fan favorite from day one. I don't know if it was how I jumped up or how I ran to the table when my name was called, or how I ripped off my pants and was just ready to go and just came in the game. I don't know what it was, but I could feel electricity in my spirit and that's when I first connected with the Minnesota fans right away. And I came in the game, and we ended up winning. We beat Detroit Shock, and it was a huge deal because they had Cheryl Ford, Deanna Nolan, Elaine Powell, Planette Pearson. I mean, they had their whole squad, and they had Bill Lambier. They were like bad girls, and I just kind of came in there, and I was very quiet. I changed the way I played because I had to, because I knew that for whatever reason, these girls were not going to, they were waiting for me to start something with me. They were waiting for it. They were like wanting that, and it was different than anything I ever experienced, because typically you're people that your age, you're the same maturity level all through middle school, all through high school, all through college, and then you're here and you're with women that are 30 years old and you're only 21. So you just that come from totally different backgrounds that don't, and this is about money. This isn't about just playing for fun or for a scholarship in college. You're playing for if I lose, or if I'm not, I lose my job if something happens. So I could tell that, it just meant the game was different. It was just played differently. But with all that said, with Tara Vanderveer there, I was the point guard. I was playing point guard, and just making sure that I made, I just was on point with everything. I had already planned what plays I was going to set. I had figured out, like, okay, I'm going to attack, I'm going to be aggressive, but and I ended up with 15 points, and I think some good rebound number and assist, and just got the crowd going. I was really into uplifting people around me. I was so into my people pleasing, was just like on another level, because I did not want any of the spotlight, because I just felt like it was too much already. But at the same time, I felt like when you win, it was all about winning to me. So the strategy that we had, I'd have to go back and look at the tape, but that kind of set the tone for just how I would personally approach every game. Now, wasn't the leading scorer, I could have totally just tried, but I just wasn't going to do that, because I knew that I had a different kind of target on me.
Okay, it's time to get candid.
Okay.
I've got a tough question for you. So, a lot's made about the difference between men's and women's sports. I mean, forget about the WNBA, NBA. Let's just talk about the difference between men's and women's sports in general. I went to go look for this box score, and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the box score of your first game. That was only 8 years ago. The WNBA, the link to the site was broken. It didn't work.
Wow.
I could find your season stats, but I couldn't find your individual stats from your first game. I saw you had 15 points, but that was from an article. How does that make you feel in general, I guess?
It makes me feel ignored, kicked, spit. It really feels like that, because I know, and that day and that game was, to me, such a transformative game for the WNBA, for the league. And it just feels like I said, but that's what I understood even then, which was made it even more depressing, is that nobody cares. Like, nobody cares. And I just don't understand why everyone cares, but nobody cares at the same time. And so that it really hurts. It hurts because, I don't really understand it. I don't understand why this is occurring, and it's a shame, it really is. I can't believe that it's not there.
Yeah, I went to click on the link. It was broken. I went to do a little more digging. I could not find it, which I was surprised.
Yeah.
All this, and I mean, it's sort of the ultimate is what it is. This is the 20th year of the WNBA. Mm-hmm. There's been a lot of really good marketing, I think, that they've done this year. But if I can't even find a box score from less than 10 years ago, how seriously do you want me to take your league? And this is me, average Joe sports fan. Yeah. When I see that, I mean, Ultimate Hoops has stats back in 2008 that I can find.
What?
So it's like, if I can't, and I mean, granted, let's be real here. I could have just missed it. I don't think I did, but I could have just missed it. That to me says, well, how seriously do you even take yourself as a league? So, we could go on about this for a long time. I do want to ask you this. Your college coach was at your first game. You said this was the last WNBA game she went to. Do you mind diving into that topic?
Well, I mean, that would obviously be a question I would have to ask her, and I've never talked to her about it, because I just kind of understand. And this is all just coming from my perspective. But, after that game was over, we had a back-to-back to Houston, which I can tell you about that game as well. But so right after the game was over, Tara and I, and Kate was there too, we all went to Buca de Beppo's.
Sure.
Buca de Beppo's. And we just had a great dinner. It was like the Last Supper. It was like, this is it, and the game I played, it's so sad when you say that they don't have the box score, because that game was my best game that I have ever played, probably in the WNBA, because I was just it was such a great complete game, and it was all for Tara, for her just to respect and show her that I know this is different. This is a different thing. This is not college, but thank you for giving me these skills that are going to withstand the test of time. Now, Tara not coming to any other games, I don't really know, but I know that, first of all, she's very busy, and in college is a totally different, culture, and it's very, it's all consuming and things like that. But, I understand that she wanted to show me support and show that I am with you, but I think that she wanted to hold on to the old Candice, and I wish I could have held on to the old Candice too. And she knew that there was going to be a new Candice, whether I wanted it to or not. It was just going to be different, and I don't know. She just, and I appreciate that, because what she did was confirm to me what I already knew, was that I'm not at Stanford anymore.
Sure. You talked about the fans in Minnesota. You played in 4 WNBA cities or 5?
4.
How
North, South, East, West.
How do the Minnesota fans compare?
The Minnesota fans are now. I love my New York fans too. Now let me just give a shout out to New York, because those are the realest fans. Like, they are. I am so in love with that city and with the people in it. And I just think it is just the most incredible city in our country. Hands down, the fans, the climate. New York City is a place where you go to New York and people are just playing basketball everywhere. Like, the whole city is just playing basketball at all times, always, especially during the summer. And that's just you don't see that anywhere else on earth. It really is Mecca. So with all respect to the New York culture and the New York fans, just in terms of who they are as people, I would say they're very special. But with all that said, in terms of, we're talking WNBA and my experiences, Minnesota is just special. It's such a special place. And the way I learned about Minnesota fans was in engaging with them was probably in my earlier years, when I would do a lot of appearances and things like that, and really, meshing with the community. That's where you really understand, because when you get drafted somewhere, there's no connection like that. It really is like meeting perfect strangers. So the way that you interact with those strangers are so important in that, and how you play, how you feel. And with all of this stuff that I'm talking about, and it was really, really, really difficult, the culture inside the WNBA for me. But the fans was what kept me alive, what kept my spirit. Like, when I told you I subbed in, I felt electricity, and that electricity is real, because you can tell that the fans in Minnesota, they actually care. Minnesota Nice is a real thing. It's not just some, it's not another name for passive aggressive, which, but Minnesota Nice is such a real thing. And that idea of Minnesota Nice translates into how they interact with the athletes, and how they care, and how they just view the humanity of the professional athletes. And that's what I think makes it so special, is because you just can really connect on a very pure level, on a wholesome level, on a level where even when we were struggling, there was so much hope and so much support, like, that was genuine, that was, you just knew that things were going to be okay, because the fan base was with you. And I would say, I could go into even more depth, but really it comes down to just, how they, like, when fans would come up to me and in Minnesota and tell me things about, well, you said something here that just really, I really connected with. I saw you in an interview, it had nothing to do with basketball, and I just want to tell you, and we'd have a conversation, and we'd talk, interact, and then, they would say, oh, you did, they were just so forthright and forthcoming with their love and just their kindness, even in the midst of, like, even how they're handling, the other sports and stuff. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty unique and rare. Are you one of the 99% of basketball players who never played professional basketball? Are you tired of trying to live your hoop dreams in the same old rec basketball leagues? At Ultimate Hoops, we believe that all basketball players should be treated like a professional, And with Ultimate Hoops League, we have completely revolutionized recreational basketball. With the Ultimate Hoops League, you'll get full online stats for every game, including box scores, videos, photos, power rankings, and your own personal profile that tracks your stats for your entire career. And you can compare your stats with the thousands of other Ultimate Hoops players across the US and Canada. Most Ultimate Hoops Leagues cost under $100 a season, which includes 8 regular season games played on Lifetime Fitness's professional quality basketball courts. No matter what your skill level is, the Ultimate Hoops League is the place to take your talents to. Join the largest recreational basketball league in America, the Ultimate Hoops League, by going to uhlife.com to get started.
You said there were a lot of difficult things about playing in the WNBA. What was the most difficult thing?
The locker room culture for me, just adjusting to that. And I think, like I said, and this is something that I think all professional sports face, but with the WNBA, it's exacerbated, is just the fact that you go from amateur to professional and it's a business and there's money and it's a different competition. Like, you're competing against the people that you're playing with, in a sense. You're competing against them. Those are who you're competing against. You're not competing against the other team. You're competing against the player next to you in training camp for a spot. It's like, and then the contracts we're given are breadcrumbs. So we're literally fighting over breadcrumbs, and it just becomes, and then no one's watching. No one cares. No one remembers what happened the day before. No one remembers what happened 8 years ago. Nobody remembers because no one cares. So you can get away with a lot of feelings that you probably wouldn't, you'd have to be held more accountable for if there was more eyes watching. You'd be more accountable for, or you wouldn't care as much if there was more money to go around or if there was more opportunities to go around. So I think early on in my career, when you're young, when you're a rookie, when you've got these opportunities coming at you, it's a lot for some people to take. And I don't blame them because I understand now much better than I did coming in. But it was really ruthless, and it was difficult for me to understand, to really put a finger on this is what it is.
You played, I think it was 5 years in Minnesota?
Yes, 5 seasons. Mm-hmm.
Who was your best friend from the team in those 5 years?
Best friend on the team. There's a lot of players that I really loved. Unfortunately, a lot of the players that I get close to, they'd get cut or traded. My first season, my rookie season, Shea Murphy was, I loved Shea, and also Charnay Zoll and Brittany Vaughn, but they had got cut during the training camp. But Shea Murphy, she played and I played against each other. She went to USC. And she got drafted to Minnesota, and her and I were just like, we had known each other since we went back in middle school. We were like bitter enemies in middle school, and then we realized like how similar we were. And then she got traded, mid-season to Detroit, and then so I would say, but she really helped. She was one of the bright spots. I would say also Monica Wright, when she got drafted, her and I got to be really close, and I love Monica. She's such a doll. Taj is like a big sister to me. And Maya and I were actually we really got along very well too. And but I would say, it was, you have teammates, but you're not going to do everything all the time. I mean, some do, I think that's the thing to it too, is that there's a lot of camaraderie and friendships. But for me, I really liked to, it wasn't like, I didn't see it as like this big sorority house or something like that. I pledged a sorority, and I just felt like it was the business side of it was so like, I just started seeing it so clearly that I made sure that I just always saw things as a business. So I have friends that, in the WNBA that are going to be my lifelong friends, but at the same time, like, it is just so, I was just so severely motivated by staying focused on that, because otherwise it'll hit you when you don't even see it, and you'll just be like, so.
This may be a strange question to answer, but I'm going to try to phrase it the best I can. There's obviously a giant disconnect between, these massive NBA contracts and what the average U.S. citizen makes. So average U.S. citizen looks and sees Mike Conley make $150 million, and they just, they can't even fathom that. You said breadcrumbs. What, knowing as much about the business as you do, knowing as much about the WNBA, the money, the TV ratings or the attendance figures or the sponsorships or whatever, what do you think would be a number where you'd be like, okay, that's fair. I get it. We're never going to earn $153 million. We're never going to earn Mike Conley money. But this is a number where it's like, okay, this is fair. I feel like we're being compensated fairly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, that is a really tough question to answer because, there's just, I feel like there's no, that all you hear all the time is how much there's no money. But I think that in my utopian society where the WNBA is, you look at the first, you look kind of the first years, you look at, I would say the ABL is a really good, I think that, I know in the ABL they were making, close to $1 million. And it just changed. Talking to women who played in the ABL and just how happy they feel in their spirit and joy and how they just feel you could tell that their worth was matched. So I would say anywhere, look into those figures, maybe 500 to 750 range.
You say there's no money. I don't buy that, to be honest with you.
I don't. But as I'm saying, you're getting fed that, so you're just
I completely understand. It's the NBA owns the WNBA, right? It's one business. Mm-hmm. Obviously, with the CBA negotiated the way it was. I hate to say this, but it is what it is. But there's money to go around, and it's just where's it going? Which the owner's pockets and the men, is where it's going. And you know what? Kind of diverting here. It's kind of at the expense of the fans. I mean, if you want to sit in a decent seat, you can't. The average family of four can't even afford a professional sporting event now. Yeah. And it's just a strange thing that again we could go down the rabbit hole on. So.
Yeah. No. Definitely. And I just think that it's really sad how we get affected the most. Like I remember, thinking even after the 2008 season, the Sacramento Monarchs, like they had won the championship in 2005, had brought so much great to the city. And then when the crash happened, when the stock market crashed and the recession hit, first thing that dropped in Sacramento was the Monarchs. Like they didn't even think about like how they can restructure things or anything like that. They were like, nope, we're gonna get rid of the Monarchs. Gone. Just like that. So it was just like, and then that's when it really hit me like, whoa, like you said, the trickling down system, like we're getting cut off.
Thank you for listening to the latest episode of Candid with Candice Wiggins. Remember, you can subscribe to the Ultimate Hoops Podcast Network on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud, and listen and download other podcasts like The Wild Card with Luke Hanlon, Recreation Nation with Reed Nelson, The Dream League Insider, and the Short Corner Podcast. Thanks to Ultimate Hoops and Lifetime Fitness who made this all possible. If you want to learn more about Ultimate Hoops and all of our basketball products, go to uhlife.com. We'll be back next week with an all-new episode of Candid with Candice Wiggins.